Good morning, Bitten Jonsson.
Hi, Cynthia, in the beautiful spring afternoon out here in Sweden. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, I like to do this introduction to the board, to the food addiction board, to show sugar, the instrument, a little bit how it came about, and what you can do with it. And it's wonderful to have Cynthia. She's certified and licensed, so she does sugar. And there is a lot of people doing sugar now. We start seeing that it's going to be very interesting to do research on the instrument. There are more than around 3,500 variables that we can do research on. So that's pretty amazing, what you log into the system. And we have done many hundreds of sugar now. And it was 1 year in November that we had the net version. Before that, we were working with a paper version. You remember that because you took that training so long back. And this is much easier, right?
Much.
Yeah, it is. So I'll be brief. Okay, you need to let me share.
Oops. That you be host, sorry.
Yeah.
There you go.
There, now I can do it. Okay. Norm Hoffman, evinceassessment.com in US, he did the first instrument based on, it was DSM-3 and at that time DSM-3, and it was called SUDS, Substance Use Disorder Diagnostic Instrument. 1990, this American woman, her brother was in treatment at Hazelden, and she was shocked that they did not use any assessment or diagnostic tool when they took on clients. So she said, how do you know that they're really alcoholics? And they had no good answer. So she found Norm Hoffman and his instrument and got to know that. And then she met this Swedish doctor. So she got married and moved to Sweden. And that's why, the Swedish version of this alcohol and drug diagnostic instrument landed in Sweden. So I was trained by her in 1990. So I've been certified in doing this diagnostic tool on alcohol, subscriptions, and drugs. And it is a very special instrument. It's the only diagnostic instrument we have in Sweden, and it is recommended by the National Health Board of Sweden. It's in their paragraphs. Okay, there are lots of screening instruments, but the important thing is to know that there is a big difference between screenings, assessments, or evaluations, and diagnostic. And sugar is actually, built upon ADDIS. So what we need to work on right now, we are working on it. We have done quite a lot of job, is to do the validity and reliability study, which we are really preparing to do that now, the same as we did with ADDIS, which is called test retest. And you can read about that on addis.se on the website, how that study was done. And it was done on 25 clients. So we're going to do that, and we have said we will do it on 30 clients. So it is, we still call it an assessment or evaluation instrument until we've done that validity and reliability study. But, it's built up on one that is already validated. So I thought I'd give you a little bit information about what it is by showing you a case that I worked on. And here you meet Niklas. Do you see my PowerPoint?
We saw, now I do. Oops, now we see dogs.
Yeah, now you see it.
Now we see a whole variety of different, April 2019 we see.
Yeah, okay. So I met this young man in April 2019, 28 years, 403 pounds. And he was a recovering alcoholic at that time, so drug addict for only 1 year. And he was isolated and living with his addicted father. I mean, I'm not going to go through all of this because you all have met these clients so many times, so you know this. But the thing, he did not want to be an addict. So the first thing I did was to do Addis on him to see how did that curve look. And this is a curve you get from doing Addis. You see the blue is his alcohol progression. So first symptom was when he was 12. And then next, there was a lot of symptoms at 15. And then, he took cannabis. You see the purple here, that was a tremendous progression. He got 21 symptoms there right away. And, that was, I jumped, I don't know how I did that. This one, we should stay here. I should move the picture. And then, he took sedatives, the red line, which go parallel here for a while with cannabis, and the same with stimulants and steroids. And then he started doing opioids over here. And you see the progression of the opioids here and over here. But anyway, so he had been, drug-free for about a year. And as we know, when you cut certain drugs, the one you have still there will bloom. So what happened was that he, of course, turned to food. And then when I did the sugar curve on him, this is very interesting. You can see that his first symptom of sugar food addiction was at the age of 5. So it is clearly the way Lustig states many times that sugar is a gateway drug into other drugs. And of course, it is the first drug we are exposed to, sugar and food, and also we are constantly exposed to it. There is no 10-year-old that is constantly exposed to alcohol or cannabis or amphetamine, but food is always around. And during his childhood, he was acting out a lot, evaluated within child psychiatry, but nobody put a diagnosis on him. But it was a question mark on ADHD, bipolar, depression, and bulimic at different ages. And I think this is very common, that somebody with this picture that actually is a sugar food addict, since psychiatry don't understand that problem, they cannot map it or evaluate it or assess it. So they give them all kinds of diagnoses, which none really fit at all. So this is very common what we see. They never, during all these years, they never ever screened for alcohol and drugs, which is amazing because he was visiting the psychiatric units many times, and he was offered SSRI here at the 22. And he was incredibly depressed with anxiety. And since alcohol, cannabis, amphetamine, opioids, steroids, and sedatives totally screw up your brain chemistry, no wonder you're depressed with anxiety. So that's a consequence of this drug use, of course, and the food and nicotine. So anyway, he tried that for 6 months and he got much worse. That's the time through this whole part of his life where he was really suicidal. So he quit SSRI. And that's really good because that also made him, start looking at his drinking and drugging. And that's something I see with SSRI, SNRI. If addicts take them, they don't feel their consequences enough to quit. So it actually can enhance many people to keep doing drugs if they are on SSRI and SNRI. And they are a nightmare to detox, is what we have found out. So they numb the brain. And of course, they change the brain chemistry. So anyway, this is the curve that you get. The black dots here is the curve generated in the sugar net version system, which I'm going to show you in a little while. And right now we are adapting it to get the weight curve in, and also, adding information about alcohol and prescription pills and street drugs. But the weight curve, which we have, I added that on here in a PowerPoint. We have a meeting with the tech people today that this will be automated in the system very soon. So we think that's going to be incredibly exciting. Okay, back to, you can see anyway that he has been working on his recovery. He quit alcohol, prescription drugs and street drugs. And he started on a ketogenic diet. And in June, he came to me in April 19, and he was finally ready due to seeing this picture. It was this picture that convinced him that he was really a food addict and an addict. And what has happened through the years with his weight and, starving, dieting, binging, starving, dieting, binging, that he really accepted that he was a food addict. And that's when he started to follow a food plan in, I think it was 3rd of June, 19. And today I did this, about, I don't know, about a year ago, I drew this curve. And today his weight is even lower. He is today around 100 kilos. And I have a picture of him that was taken this August. So you're going to soon see this picture. But, this is what you all know. So I don't have to spend any time on this. You can have a PDF of this and you can look at it later. But this is the normal progression of food addiction. And you all know that. So I'm not going to spend time on that. But why is it so important to diagnose somebody? Why should we diagnose? Well, we know there's a huge difference between harmful users and addicts. And harmful users, they can moderate. Those are the emotional eaters, the stress eaters, the party eaters, the cultural eaters, the people that don't have a lot of knowledge. And that's why they choose bad food. They don't have a choice because they grow up, with this kind of food and don't know anything else. Okay, so why is diagnosis important? And I talked about, why it is important, because we need to understand if somebody has a harmful use or an addiction. And it is unethical to treat someone without knowing what we should treat, and it would be risk for incorrect treatment. And it's what we have seen here in Sweden. We have done this now for 2 years in one clinic in Stockholm on every client that comes through the door before treatment. And it has increased compliance with 50%. They really stick to the treatment program nowadays because they are incredibly motivated. And they surrender in a way we've never seen before, because they have this picture of the curve. This is me, this is my life, this is how it looked. I can clearly see that when I moved, this happened. When this happened, this happened. They can see how the progression, of the adding on of the symptoms correlates with the weight fluctuating up and down. And I tried Weight Watchers, I tried this, they lose weight for a while. And then, more symptoms of the addiction and weight goes up again. So it's incredibly powerful to show them this curve. And that's what happened to Niklas. And I'm also going to send you a paper that's really good that's named Avoid the Perils of Instrument Abuse by Norman Hoffman. So the motivation increases tremendously. And then we can choose adequate treatment. And also many times I think about when they do research, how do they know that they do research about food addiction on food addicts? Maybe it is harmful users. And then it would be confusing. So all the research should actually be when we have diagnosed somebody as a food addict. So that's very important. And today, we see addiction interaction disorder, and that's something that I worked with for many years, and we need to be very aware that we know that about only 17% of our clients today have one outlet, like food addiction, and all the others have several outlets. It could be pills, it could be alcohol, it could be screens, it could be gambling. There are many other outlets like nicotine, several other outlets today. And we know that 80% of all the relapses are due to unknown outlets. So if we don't screen and evaluate, assess for that, how will we know, So that's not very important. So sugar is a comprehensive structured interview, assessment, and evaluation tool that really examines the client's relationship with sugar, flour, processed food, and related consequences. So their whole life comes in chronological order. And today it is based on the diagnostic criteria for harmful use, pathological use, and addiction to mind-altering psychoactive drugs, as described in ICD-10-11 and DSM-5. And you all know what that is, so I'm not going to go into that. So it distinguishes between pathological addictive use, harmful use, such as stress eating, emotional eating, binging, and versus the very intractable primary, I would say, chronic and serious disease of sugar, flour, processed food addiction. So we follow ASAM's definition, of course. And embedded in the tools is screening for other outlets, as I showed you. Okay. So this is a therapeutic interview. Some have said, well, it takes too long, but what do you mean? To sit and ask a lot of other open questions would take very long and you might miss the target. This is very structured. You send the client the pre-assessment evaluation, they send it back to you filled in with a lot of information that you have, as information when you're going to write your background and recommendation in the system. And then, you develop a very special report with clients. So many clients have asked me, and told me after, being doing this, that nobody have asked the questions you asked, about my problem, the relationship with food, the very specific, deep questions about my relationship with the food. Nobody have asked those questions. And they also say to me when they're done, well, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was this bad. So they really get a picture of their life. So it is a therapeutic interview. You get a very deep connection with your client doing this. It's objective. It's not dependent on who does the assessment. Although, you need to be certified and trained in how you ask the questions and what they mean, but it is very objective. And it provides quality insurance for both you and your client. And as I said, they gain insight, which in return affects motivation and, of course, compliance. And it's going to give you all the information you need to develop a treatment plan. You also can see if it is current or remission, early versus late stage, etc. So you get the best picture ever of the client's life with food. It takes away stigma. It is a disease. I think that's one of the most important things, that they understand that here we have done this questionnaire and you have this illness. This is Niklas today. It was August this year, last year, so it's about a half year ago, and I still have contact with him and he's doing great. He works in alcohol and drug counseling as his assistant, and he's frustrated like crazy because it is a treatment facility, the traditional Minnesota model for men, age 16 to 25, and nobody talks about sugar and food, and they drink soda and pop sugar every day and have foggy brains. So, he thinks that they don't have a good treatment result, but, he cannot affect that. But I think he's doing a good job sticking to his food plan and his life and his recovery, although working in that kind of environment. So it's great to share, recovery with this young man. He's very dedicated. Okay, so if you have questions about that, please let me know. And now I'm going to log you into the system and show you a little bit what it is. And I hope that you will return to me with questions about this. And I'm more than happy to demonstrate it again to you, take you through it, and also show you what it means to be doing, this. So this is the way it looks. When you have a license, when you're certified, which means you're educated and trained in using it, and you have your license in this system, you have your own page and your own license where you log in your clients. And due to the GDPR, we only use Unicode. So there's never any names or birth dates or any that kind of information in here. So only the ones that have done the interview. I have a master login, so I can see everybody's interviews. And if I look here today, I will see that one that Sippy did today was number 980. So that's how many we have done today. So there's a lot of clients we can do research on. I would see if she has finished it. She might not have done everything ready. No, she has not. She's still working on writing the background and recommendations. So I'm going to open another one. And I'm going to just, in the meantime, I'm going to show you how it is, how it works. So when you do this, your client is logged into the system. Well, you share screen. They are not logged into the system, of course. You are logged into the system, but you share screen with them. So the client sees these questions. They see everything you write and every answer you do in here, they can see that. That also talks for confidentiality and security. So when you come to the end and all the questions are adding up, they know that the result is only made of their questions and what they answered. They know for sure that nothing can make anything out of anything else in the system because it is their answers. And I think that is very neat. So I always do it online with my client like this. I send a Zoom link, I log in, and I add my client, and here we go. So there is, of course, a lot of general questions in here that you add, and I'm not going to go through all of these with you, but there are questions about stress, occupation, how many kids you have, and so forth. So then there is a stress profile in here. And then we have, anxiety. We have the GAD-7 in here. We have questions about PTSD. And we have questions about depression. It's a regular depression screening instrument. And as you see, all the time when you ask your client all these questions, you have this little bubble where you can write comments and information. And then number 10 is about caffeine, 11 nicotine, and then 12 and 13 is also nicotine. Do you smoke today? When have you ever tried to quit, and how did you feel, and so forth? And 14, and 14 A and B are screenings for gambling. So there is also an instrument for diagnosing gambling, which is called games. And then 15 to 17 are questions about alcohol. And then to our help, since a drink is different in Sweden than in US, we talk about amounts. So in many questions, you have this information where you can open this and then you read the information here so that you and your client know what you're talking about, that you talk about the same thing. So one client doesn't think that this is a drink and another one thinks this is a drink. We talk about amounts. So you have a screening for alcohol in here. And, how often do you drink, how many drinks containing as much alcohol and so forth, which I think is very important. And this is called the UNCOPE Plus, which Norm Hoffman have made. UNCOPE are the 6 simple questions, and UNCOPE Plus is where you ask, how much do you drink, how often do you drink, that much. Number 18 is a screening for street drugs and prescription. So how often do you use marijuana, any other drug or prescription medication to get affected? Okay, what do you mean with drug? The client might ask you. What do you mean with prescription pills? And you open this information here and up comes the substance list. And here you have sedatives, tranquilizers, opioids, cannabinoids, stimulants, there you have ADHD medicines, which are addictive. Ecstasy, cocaine, hallucinogens, inhalants, and other, which is, anabolic, androgenic steroids. So then you can ask the clients. So if they say, yes, I've been taking Depolan, I'm taking it for a month, you can click here and it will become yellow. When we do ADIS, there are more drugs in here and intravenously drugs. And then if they have one of those, we double click and it will become purple. So that end up in the end results. So we really get a good picture of other outlets. Then 19 to 24 are the regular UNCOPE screening questions, on alcohol. So the same that are on Food Addiction Institute's website, but they are for sugar, flour, processed food, and here they are for alcohol, exactly the same question. And then you come to question 25, which is the master question. And on all the questions, there are criteria questions in ICD-10 and DSM-5. We will update it soon to ICD-11. They have an asterisk in front of them. You see that here. That means this is a criteria question. Then there are other questions, which are questions for harmful use. And I'm going to show you a checklist in a minute. So anyway, the master question means that the system will calculate the first symptom from this question. So here, the first symptom is, have you ever had such a strong desire or sense of compulsion at the thought of eating sugars that you could not resist the urge to eat them? Yes, the client answer has, and then you always ask, has it happened last year? Because if they say no here, it means that yes, they've had this symptom, but it was more than a year ago. And that is L, lifetime, more than 12 years ago in the end result in the system, which means that they are in remission. That's why you can do this on somebody that's been in recovery for years, because they could, answer all these questions and get a curve over how their, addiction looked through their life. But it's all going to come out in remission. And then you always ask the very important here, when was the first time this happened to you? And this client answers 21, which is very high. Usually it's 4 or 5 years of age. This question happens. So then, you keep asking all these questions, and, many questions have like information boxes in here. I show you another one, which is question 58. I'm not going to go through all of them. No way. 58. Have you experienced medical problems that you or someone else think is due to your eating? And they say, what do you mean medical problems? Then you have an information page here again. You drop it down and, you can read from this. Have you ever experienced any of these symptoms? And if they say yes, then yes. Here it was no, but then you say yes. And then if it was yes, was it last year? Was it last month? And when was the first time you experienced that? So that's the structure of the questions, So, and then when you come to 67, which is the last question, you click end, and then you click end once more. And we're going to go back to interviews because that one was not done. I'm going to look for one that is probably done. Let me see. Maybe this one is done. I think this one is done. Let me see here. Yeah, that one is done. Okay. So back to client page. So when you've asked all the questions, you come here and it should say 100%. If it doesn't say that, you missed a question or you missed an age of onset or something. So you don't have to go back and look through all the system to find the question. All you do is you open the interview and you scroll, because the question you missed will be marked with red. So it's very easy to go back and look where you did go wrong. So anyway, here at this stage, which this would take probably 45 minutes, when you're done here, because it's very important, this is not therapy. You should not let clients talk about their life story here. This is a structured evaluation tool. So you should ask the questions exactly the way they are and go to the next question. So it is yes, no, how old were you when it happened? So this is a way of making sure if the client have addiction or if they have harmful use. Therapy will be done later. So a lot of people think that, oh, shouldn't I ask more questions? But how did you feel? No. That's not what we do here. That's therapy. You take that later. Here you want to know what you have in front of you. So when you come to the end, you can tell the client that I can give you a preliminary result right now, but I need time to go through the pre-assessment evaluation, which is a 13-page form that we send to the client before, where they can sit, alone at home and think over those questions and start preparing for looking back at their lives. So, you tell them that I want to have more time to look at the assessment evaluation and then go through this again before I write the assessment and the recommendations for you. But you could open the checklist here. So if you open ICD-10 checklist, you see that A, actual, that's the last 12 months. L, lifetime, is more than 12 months ago. And it is a pathological use if assessment shows at least 3 actual symptoms spread in at least 3 criteria. So let's look here. Okay, look at all the A's here. And here is the criteria in ICD, number 3, 4, and so on. And when you look here, this client has 16 out of 24 symptoms spread in 5 criteria. So that is pathological use, really. And then you can go back to the client page. You can look at the harmful use. If they are really a clear-cut addiction like this, I usually don't go through the harmful use with them because they can just be confused. So anyway, here you see that there are also several symptoms of harmful use, of course, if it is addiction. But if it wasn't addiction, this one would be very important because then we knew we had somebody with harmful use. So that's, why it's important to do this. So anyway, then you open DSM-5, and of course you have 11 criteria here. And the encoding here is mild pathological use. They have symptoms in 2 to 3 criteria, moderate 4 to 5 criteria, severe 6 or more criteria. And the same A, last 12 months, L, more than 12 months ago. So then you scroll down here and you see that this client has 19 symptoms spread in 9 criteria. So that is severe. Right, Cindy?
Yes.
Yes. So then we know that. So this is what you could tell your client, that this is preliminary, but this is not telling them, what to do about it. It's just telling them this is the situation. And then you go to the curve. I also checked the substance list and it was nothing here on that one. So then we can leave that, nothing yellow marked. And then we have something called a timeline. Some people like to work with that. The first symptom with this client was at age 10. And, and then you see the progression all the way up to 40. I don't use that so much. I use the curve when I talk to my clients, when I do follow-up, which takes another hour. So here is the curve with all the symptoms. And it's an interactive curve when you work in the system. So if you look, when I put the cursor here, you see the question comes up. And if we scroll down, they say, okay, what happened here? Well, you can look at this question. This is what happened here. And then you go to the next question. This is what happened here. So every question come up, when you do that. And then until we have the weight curve built in the system, which we're working on, what I do here, I make a screenshot and I put it in a PowerPoint. And that's when I add the weight curve. That takes me a couple of minutes. It's really fast work to do today. Or if there is any other information I think is very important. Then we go to the background and, when we click generate background, as you know, Cindy, all the information through the whole questionnaire comes up here. And from that and the comments you made in the little bubbles, you can start writing, your summary. Why did the client come to you? The reason for the interview. What did the assessment say? And stress list, what did all that say? So you summarize everything here and write a statement to your client. And then, of course, This client we also did UNCOPE alcohol on, and this client has 6 symptoms in 6 of the 6 UNCOPE questions, and that is pretty much alcoholism. And according to Norm Hoffman, 2 or more yes for alcohol in the UNCOPE is 97% risk for alcoholism. So we should actually do an addis on this one too. And then, she writes here all the recommendations that should be done, of course, the treatment plan, the first initial treatment plan, of course. It's not the whole long treatment plan. And this particular nurse, she is not trained in treatment yet, only sugar. So she refer this client to somebody working in treatment. So that's what you do. Okay, so that, anything I missed, Cindy, to tell them about?
Very thorough, thank you.
Is that okay, you think?
Yes.
Okay, so anyone that is interested in this, please let me know. And what I would like is that we have some information written on Food Addiction Institute's website, where it talks about YFAS, that we also present this instrument. So that was my aim with this.